always, the globalists always set things up where morally it makes you want to support it. Oh, WikiLeaks, they're trying to shut down the free press and leakers. There'll be no freedom of the press if we don't stand with Assange. So you're forced to say, don't arrest Assange, don't do this because they're pushing for an internet kill switch. But then it turns out Assange is being fed this data, supported by George Soros' henchmen, and is continually putting out things that bolster the official globalist line. So you've got to support WikiLeaks in that he shouldn't go to jail, and it's good to have transparency, but it's a selected transparency where they're only releasing internal propaganda reports now to the general public to push their official line. But those are so flimsy that even within them, the government's spinning and oh, look how bad the al-Qaeda threat is. See, it's real. But then right there it admits the government knew and was protecting them. So when you look at this, Paul Watson's hitting it from the angle of WikiLeaks bombshell points to 911 stand down. And Kurt hits it from the other accurate angle of latest round of WikiLeaks docs, hypes, manufactured terror. Now, we'll get into the latest, what's happening with Egypt, and then your phone calls, and then the economy, and kids getting kicked out of school for spitballs, and everything else.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
A very wealthy U.S. citizen is predicting that in 2011, we will witness the most important day in America in more than 50 years. He says it will change everything about our lives. The way you shop, travel, invest, educate your children, and even how you take care of your health and your own family. Now, this man has made some outrageous predictions over the years. The crazy part is, he's usually right. You see, he predicted the collapse of GM, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and America's biggest mall owner, General Growth Properties. In fact, Barron's called his work a dire prophecy. Recently, he created a video, which you can watch online for free, detailing his biggest and most important prediction yet. And it's a real eye-opener. I can't stress this enough. You should at least watch this free video online today. He explains everything you need to know, including simple steps you can take to protect yourself. You can find the video at www.endofamerica3.com. That's endofamerica3.com. Watch the free video at www.endofamerica3.com. That's endofamerica3.com. Folks, you've heard us talk about Home Gain before. Home Gain is now offering a special promo where you get up to $150 when you buy or sell a home with a Home Gain agent you find through their Find a Realtor program. Home Gain lets you compare realtors anonymously. It's easy. Go to homegain150.com to find and compare realtors anonymously. Enter promo code HomeGain150 and receive up to $150 when you close a deal with a Home Gain agent. Share the Home Gain 150 promo code with your friends via Facebook, Twitter, text, and more. Look for Max, the Home Gain Gorilla, to find out more about how Home Gain is going to pay you. Visit HomeGain150.com today to enter your promo code and get paid for buying or selling a house. That's HomeGain150.com. This is Alex Jones with 5 good reasons you should consider buying a solar power generator. Number 1, new climate legislation could easily double or triple your electric bill. Number 2, our new energy czar wants to control how much power your electric company allows you to have. It's true. Total government control of electricity in the name of smart grid technology is coming. Number 3, in some areas of the country, the power grid is dangerously overloaded. And now, new socialist legislation is only compounding the problem. Number 4, dangerous weather is always a threat to local grids. Every year, thousands of families lose their power from weather-related outages. Number 5, a solar power generator provides powerful backup insurance and peace of mind. Folks, I really believe in the solar power generators offered by Solutions from Science, one of my oldest sponsors. You can get more information at www.mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Remember, the government doesn't own the sun, so go to mysolarbackup.com or call 1-877-327-0365.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space.
All right, I want to get into the Egypt situation, also the record cold and snow blanketing much of the Northeast. Rolling blackouts ordered by government around the country. Turned out with California and Enron, they would internally cut off power routinely, and they said that created the perception that there wasn't enough power and that people would then accept higher prices. I don't know if that's the case here, but just amazing to see much of Austin without power with rolling blackouts where I live because it froze last night and there are a few patches of ice on bridges. Just incredible to see how paralyzed we become and how addicted to this infrastructure and how dependent on it we are. Also, obviously, Anderson Cooper attacked by supposed Hosni Mubarak supporters. We're going to be going over all of that. But I was on Mancow Mueller's syndicated radio show this morning, as I am every Wednesday, for about 30 minutes every Wednesday. And he said, come on, Alex. And he had his brother on the show, and he had a woman whose fiance died on 9/11. And he said, come on, Alex, you're a truther. How despicable. I like a lot of what you do and say, but this is just terrible. How can you say George W. Bush basically had a plunger in the basement of the White House and did this? And that's not what we're saying. We're saying the people that run our government admit they staged the Gulf of Tonkin to get us into Vietnam. The people that run our government have declassified that they staged hundreds and hundreds of bombings under Operation Gladio alone in Europe to blame on their political enemies. And he said, oh, don't change the subject. Let's talk about 9/11. And I said, wait a minute. If a bank robber who's been in jail for 10 years is released and he's got a certain physical appearance, white hair, white beard, 65 years of age, and drives a red pickup truck, and a week after he gets out of prison, in the area where he's been released, a bank gets robbed by a 65-year-old guy driving a red pickup truck with a gray beard and gray hair, it doesn't mean he did it. But that's the first person the cops are going to visit. That's the first person the FBI is going to go visit. I mean, if we have a government that admittedly has staged terror attacks or funded terrorists and allowed them to attack, they have different variants of it, over and over again, how do you not then look at that and see how they've used 9/11 to take our liberties, to take our freedoms, to set up a police state, to lie about WMDs? That's a false flag. Iraq could nuke us in 45 minutes. England's in danger. He's got nukes. And it turns out they lied about that. They weren't mistaken. They lied about that. And then you look at who is Saddam Hussein, a guy trained by the CIA in 58, a guy put into power in 1979, a guy told to attack Iran, a guy told to go ahead and attack Kuwait. And then now what have they installed there? A more oppressive system in Iraq, more death, more bondage. The globalists have a public strategy of deindustrializing any country they can or stopping a nation from becoming industrialized. And that's been happening in Egypt. And so they want to get rid of Hosni Mubarak, their old dictator, just like they wanted to get rid of Saddam Hussein. And who do they put in? They're admittedly saying there's going to be a coalition government with the Muslim Brotherhood and this El Baradi character, who's admittedly a top UN official with the head of the Atomic Energy Agency, formerly a top globalist, and who's been sometimes buddy-buddy with Iran. And you've got the Muslim Brotherhood in press releases saying, we will overthrow Saudi Arabia, we will overthrow Jordan, we will overthrow Egypt, and we will put in an Islamic regime. And then I see Republicans on the air going, oh, my gosh, the Muslim Brotherhood, Obama must be a Muslim. He's trying to get us. Well, you Republicans should be happy. This is the Zbigniew Brzezinski under Carter, and then the George W. Bush, Herbert Walker Bush, who was really running things under Reagan. This has been the continued policy. They don't want modern buildings and factories and power, electrical power and wealthy populations that can support a growing population in the Middle East. They don't want secular governments in there. They want a bunch of people running around, with big beards, with their wives chained up, and all of that oppression. They're bringing the radical Muslims into the U.S. They're bringing them into Europe, and they're empowering them to bully mainline cultured people who happen to be Muslim. And it's a way to demonize Muslims, and it's a way to scare Westerners into giving up their liberties in the name of fighting the Muslim threat, hearkening back to the Crusades when the Muslims would invade and then the Christians would invade, back and forth fighting with each other. While the globalists sit above the United States, sit above Europe, sit above the Middle East, and are playing us off against each other. Here's an analogy. one of the old James Bond movies. I forget the name of it, but the head of, the evil, sinister chaos or Spectre group, I forget the name, is meeting on his yacht with some of his assassins. And he's working with private terror groups, private contractor groups who want to cause economic crises so they can profit from it. And, of course, those books were all written by a former OSS high-level spy master / MI6 spy master, Mr. Fleming. So he was really throwing in your face how things really work. And this shadowy, guy, you never see his face. He's petting the cat. He's the bankster. And he says, let me explain how things work here. You have your enemies fight each other. Look at the Chinese fighting fish. And he puts 3 fish in a little tank, and he says, watch the smart one. And the smart one goes over and doesn't get in the fight. And he lets the other 2 beat each other up. One of them kills the other fish, and after it's exhausted, the smart fish comes over and kills him. See, we are trained to think in terms of America, Egypt, Israel, England, China, Russia. There's globalists setting up a standardized open world government. And they wrote policy papers on this 80 years ago. They had the 10 FEMA regions in 1937 in the New York Times. Bernadine Smith mailed me the actual copy. I've shown it on TV years ago. I wish I could find it in the huge warehouse of papers and videos we've got. If somebody else has a copy, please send it again. I'll show it, or somebody scan it online. It's the cover of the New York Times. You fold it out, 1937, or was it 36, and there are the 10 regions of America under the global government, and they talk about the 10 global regions under one currency and how the Rockefellers have this great plan for the League of Nations to build this. And it's not called FEMA regions, but it's the exact 10 regions today that are under FEMA, and the exact 10 global regions. They got a map of the U.S. and then under it a map of the world. 10 regions per country, 10 regions worldwide controlled by the banks who control the issuance of currency and credit. So, of course, I knew everything that was going to happen. It's not hard. They told us. It'd be like if the police busted some bank robbers again and they found their plans for their next heist. Or let's say the cops find bank robbers' hideout, but they haven't caught the bank robbers. That's a better parable. And they go in and they find written up plans of what banks they're going to rob next. What would smart cops do? They would leave those plans there, not let the bank robbers know they found the hideout, and be waiting at a stakeout at the next place that they were going to rob. Well, I have their entire blueprint. You have their entire blueprint. I mean, in the 70s, through the 80s, 90s, CFR, congressional hearings, UN reports, we cover them all the time, openly saying world government. By the 70s, they said, we'll have carbon taxes on all human activity to shut down any industry that we don't control. Then once people are so poor, we'll say, okay, become sterilized and we'll still give you your welfare card. Then we'll put things in their water and their vaccines to kill them slowly so that they don't all notice at once. I mean, we have it all. We have their entire blueprints for what they're doing, and that's what's frustrating about this. If a group openly declares war on free humanity and war on Alex Jones and my family and war on free speech and private property and the right to self-defense and on my sovereignty of my country that has codified the best laws and systems our world has ever seen, I'm going to defend nationalism. I'm going to defend our republic. Whatever the globalists are for, I'm against. Now, that could just be an easy equation of we know they're bad, and so whatever they're for, we're against. But I intellectually have studied every program, every